Hello, Mr. C.K. Lin. Welcome to the 12 Summer Podcast. Welcome. And,
Thank you.
We're doing this podcast in Taipei, Taiwan. We're both traveling this month for the Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year, however you call it.
Right.
So we're both in Taipei, and we decided to do a podcast here.
Drop in.
Yeah, drop in. Yeah, this wasn't planned, but I'm very excited about this.
Everything's always planned.
In a way, yes. Thank you for making this happen. You actually brought your podcast equipment.
That's right.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your podcast, since you are the professional podcast that travel with your equipment. He was making fun of me that, hey, old podcaster will travel with their equipment, and I did it this time. I was just coming back to see family and friends, and he did, so good for him. So
hey, CK, let's do a podcast. But can you bring your own equipment? That's funny.
Right.
So yes, Noble Warrior was inspired when I first got to Burning Man. Mm-hmm. It was about 1.5 years ago. My whole thing is about what does it mean to live a meaningful and purposeful life as a human being first and foremost. When it first started, it was all around men, what it means to be a man. But then realized, I think episode 24, 25 into it, and why did I just cut out half of the population? Women do bring very valuable perspective as well. So it's now expanded to both sexes. And the whole point is to interview people with open mind, open heart, open hands, who have carved out their own path. Came out of the matrix, so to speak. Was very intentional in designing the life that they want to live, the business they want to have, the lifestyle they wanted to have. So the podcast is to focus on people on their journey. What were they thinking about beforehand? What were they thinking about during? And what do they think about right now? Ask them about mindset, ask them about strategy, ask them about tactics. So that's what Noble Warrior is all about.
Yeah, for listeners out there, I mean, there are quite a few interesting, outstanding human beings on that podcast. I strongly recommend
Thank you.
Tune in and check it out.
Thank you.
And when you're talking about that you only interview men at the beginning for the Warrior podcast, it kind of reminded me when I started this podcast, I think 99% of the parenting podcasts are made by women. It feels like the men are kind of cut out from the parenting category. Although we are half the parenting, we consist of 50% of the parents.
Right.
But most of the books and the blogs and the podcast are made by women and mostly for women. But it is true that I think mom plays a super important role than father. I wouldn't say more important, but they play. Let me put it this way: when my son and daughter, when they were born, in the first 2 years, sometimes I look at, how my wife interact with them and taking care of them, feeding them, and I was like, man, like if God come down and say, okay, for some reason you can only let your children have a mom or a dad, I'll definitely let them have their mom. Because the mom keep them alive, and I just, most of the time, I'm just there to add to it or prevent them from getting injured, And I think it's true for the first few years. Mom really plays a super important role, and then people can argue differently, but it's from my observation, if you want me to choose, like if you make me ride a time machine, go back to 1 or 2 and say, okay, you can only choose having a mom or dad, I'll definitely choose my mom, because they, Michelle had, she feed them, take care of them, and I don't know. I think there's a reason why the woman dominates the parenting podcast category, and for books and blogs and all that. But that's another reason why we need a podcast for fathers, because even though mom play such an important role in raising children, I think fathers do too. I'm discovering that role, with other men, and there really is a lot that we can do, and there's a lot father can add to a children's life, and the studies showing that, like, kids without father, they grow up they're having a lot more challenging life, right? They go into crimes, and they don't finish school, a lot of things. So, and I think the society is also discovering the importance of father. So I'm glad I took this on. It's sometimes it feels weird to talk about being a father, because what's there to talk about? Just be like your dad and work hard and this and that. But no, I'm discovering that the modern dad have a much higher consciousness and awareness on their role, and a lot of men are doing an awesome job. Even for men who haven't become a father, they're already thinking about it. Like, what kind of father I would be. I probably won't do what the last generation would do, or repeat a lot of good things they did that done for us, that kind of stuff. So anyway.
Great work. Now I think there's a huge demand for that, especially, I'm a father to be sometime in the future, not right now, but to be. And as a seeker, as someone who is always looking at best practices, what other people have done, such that I can kind of have a roadmap to look at things, right? So I think this is hugely important, for sure.
So, I always, not always, but I like to explore with my guests what their childhood was like, because I think from my own experience, what my childhood really determines what kind of father I will become. I think that's true for everyone.
Interesting.
Because you really learn from your own experience. It's like either I hate this, or I like this, or this feel natural, this feel familiar, this feel like love, or I hated this, I love that, and that would determine the role you play. So if
Sure. What do you want to know?
No, just what's the first memory you have for your
as a child?
As a child, yeah.
The earliest I remember when I was 2 years old.
Oh, that's early.
Yeah. I actually have a lot of memories from early childhood.
Nice.
And the first memory I had was I was crawling on the floor, minding my own business, and I had my mom invited her best friend at the time, and her kid came and started pulling my hair.
Oh.
And this is unjust. What did I do? Right. So that was my earliest memory.
I see. What did your mom say?
I think she was trying to be a good host and try to be understanding, trying to be gracious, and then she broke us up and told a bigger boy and said, hey, you shouldn't do that. But nonetheless, I still felt it was injustice. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
There was no jiu-jitsu back then, huh?
No, not.
Or you be enrolling the next day.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know what? Actually, no, that's an interesting segue. Maybe that may planted a seed on, hey, I need to defend myself or learn how to defend myself.
Yeah.
Hence my fascination with martial arts since then. I don't think it's cause and effect, but definitely added to it for sure.
What's your, say, first memory with your father? Or not the first or the most memorable or significant memory with that?
I remember there was one time, I think I was 6 years old. Chinese New Year, got red envelope money. I just went out and bought some fireworks myself.
Nice.
And typically that's his role. And he saw that I had my secret stash when everyone's playing fireworks. He was pissed. And I remember after we got home, he and I would stay in the car, and he just lost his temper and punched me in the face. And I was dumbfounded. I mean, at the time, I thought I did something wrong because my mom was crying as well. Now that I'm grown, looking back, there was probably something else happening. It has nothing to do with me buying fireworks. So, but that's definitely one of the pivotal memories I had. I think, again, it wasn't conscious, but I think at that moment, I realized that my father is not this godlike figure. That he's human as well. He lost his temper and things like that.
I see.
Yeah, it definitely made an imprint for me.
So what does it mean, like he's not like a god figure anymore? What does that mean?
When I was a child, I thought he knew everything. He's capable of everything. He's taller than I was. Everything, right? So he was my sky, right? And at that moment, I realized he's human. That he would lose his temper. That he's not perfect. That he doesn't know everything. That he doesn't have all the right, wrong judgment. That kind of thing.
I see. How old were you? 6?
I think it was 6.
Okay.
Pretty young.
I see.
I mean, young enough where I don't deserve to be punched in the face.
No, I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone deserved to be. Well,
I mean, he definitely, again, in hindsight, he definitely overreacted.
He got emotional. He got angry.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Right.
And has, from my own experience, yes, a lot of time when parents lose control really has nothing to do, has something to do with the kid, but losing control has more to do with
Correct.
who that person is.
Correct.
Than the kid, because every kid is like that.
Right.
They like to explore. They don't like to listen to you. They like to play. They get distracted.
Right.
They don't know of the consequence.
Right.
But some parents kept their cool. Some parents lost their shit. So I think it has a lot less to do with who the child is, but who the parent is. Like for me, like when I'm stressed, I'm tired, when I am exhausted, then sometimes I catch myself on the edge of losing my temper or talking too loud and to my kids, So and it has more to do with me because they're like that every day, and most of the time I'm cool. So which tells me like, yeah, it's more about me, not about them, because they don't change.
Right.
They don't have the consciousness of how their behavior yet. That's just the truth.
Right.
So yeah. Wow. So how was but what's your relationship with your father like?
Right now?
No, like before when you're children. What kind of dad was he?
So let me actually expand that a little bit more.
Sure.
I would say I was raised here in Taiwan, and the parenting style was very much do as I say. Just do what I say, don't question it. And tiger father, tiger mom kind of a thing, right? Just do as I say and don't question it. I think at the time, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, was definitely part of the Chinese culture, right? The consciousness level, like just here is the rules. Don't question the rules. So that's how I was brought up. And but as a curious human being, especially someone like I am, I'm always questioning, why is this, why is that, you know, hence why I got into this whole path of being a scientist, right? And what I realized at some point, again, they will lose their temper because I reached the limit of their knowledge, and they were embarrassed, perhaps, they didn't know the answer. And oftentimes I will ask philosophical questions where there are no answers. What's the meaning of life? You know, what's the point of living? What's the point of having kids? Like there are no answers. But they, again, reach the limit of their patience or knowledge, and then sometimes they'll lose their temper.
I see.
Yeah. What was your original question? Did I answer that?
What was your relationship like with your father when you're...
Right. So there wasn't any relationship per se. And the love they gave me was more along. So my father's side, the currency of love was things, lifestyle, security. There wasn't a whole lot of touching, you know, time spent together, any of those things. It was basically, let me meet your basic needs. Let me give you money, whatever classes you want to take, go ahead and take it, right? With my mom, the currency of love was classes, and fun, like fun activities, things like that, video games, whatever it is that we want. She will do her best to get it for us.
Lucky you.
There's more to that. There's more to that. Yeah.
I always envy the kid with video games, Nintendos.
Well, I mean, that's okay. So since we're there, I might as well go there. I'm the kind of a kid who is obsessed with completing things. So, and there are rules, right? She would set rules like, hey, you can only play 2 hours a day and so forth. So then I was like, okay. She was watching, so I'm going to play 2 hours, but then everyone go to bed, and I will wake up at 3 a.m. to continue to play my game. But because I didn't want her to find out, or because I wanted to basically, I don't know what went on in my mind, I would basically play my face right next to the TV. So basically I can have a quick reaction time. Put the video game back in and pretend nothing happened if she catches me. And then the stairway is right, like all the way behind.
Right.
So sometimes I'll feel this like looming presence behind me at 3 a.m. in the morning. I have to like watch my back all the time. It's super dark, right? No light. And that went on for months and months. And I think at some point, she caught us in the afternoon, and then we just smashed everything.
Wow.
The game console, the games.
Wow.
She will lose her shit.
Wow.
Very rule-based family household. If you cross, like everything is cool within the boundary, but once you test the boundary,
thunderstorm,
hurricane
coming
you
down.
test my authority, then Old Testament, like God comes down and smite you. That's the household.
I see.
Yeah.
I can relate to that a little bit, I think.
You mean how you grew up, or how you are as a parent?
No, how I grew up as a little kid. They lost their shit. But now looking back, I do have understanding and compassion for why that is. Like, I can relate to you when you say your mom's currency to you is like classes. That's also similar. My dad's currency to me was books. I can buy any books I want, but only books, no video games. No, not even too many toys. books. So we have a library of book at home. We enjoy reading, you know. So I was a little nerd. But you know, back then, you know, Taiwan just kind of finished the war with China, the Communist Party. So it was poor, right? The whole country was poor, not many resources, but the economy was growing fast, and they knew that they kind of caught the wave because they got the education. You know, my dad was a doctor. Even he grew up like my grandfather was a farmer and an entrepreneur. But they're, you know, so they're growing up like growing oranges and other fruits. You know, my mom's dad fled from China to Taiwan to escape the communist and the Cultural Revolution. So they came with nothing, you know. So they're poor, and I think for them, love and compassion wasn't their priority, and they didn't grow up with love and compassion either. It's more like, we need to survive today. Right. You need to listen to me. Right. You need to follow my direction to survive tonight. Right. You know, you have to, and it's not safe out there. Right. There's enemy and bad person out there, and that's how they grew up. Right. You know.
Yeah, I remember when I was 5th grade. Back before 5th grade was martial law.
Right. That's right.
And constantly we had drills. In school. Yes. As if there's a war breaking out. Yeah. Anytime. What you should do. So the essays I would write be like, hey, let me get stronger, smarter, so I can
beat the commie.
If that was my formula, right? If I want to get an A, if I just use that formula, I always get an A. Right. And then I think at 6th grade or 5th grade, I used the same formula, and my teacher was like, "What is this thing? what is this?
You don't have to write this shit anymore. We all know it's bullshit. You don't have to do it anymore."
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, physiology, security, love, connection, self-actualization, self-transcendence, right? So back then, totally was all about security, physiology, very little love and connection, I would say. Yeah. Maybe New Year's, right? When there were a lot of festivals, right? That kind of things.
Right. But in a way, they did a good job. I mean, how many Taiwanese kids get to pursue their dreams of getting a PhD at UCLA?
Sure.
You know?
Actually, you know what? So I want to say this. I don't want to paint them as terrible parents, because they did their best.
Yes.
For sure. Well, part of the realization that I have over the 15 years of personal development work, 50 plant medicine ceremonies, you know, I really came to peace with literally they did their best. So they gave me the best they got. And totally I'm at peace with whatever they did, because as you said, look at the result. I turned out to be a decent human being, right? And had a pretty successful life, career, and balanced person, all that. So yeah. And actually these days, whenever I get a chance, I do ask questions about, what were you thinking back then? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? What did grandparents did? How did they raise you? You know, what were their currency of love, etc., etc. And a lot of times my mom would say, I don't know why they did that. And also she was actually being really honest. Back then she just didn't know anything. And she was more about the ego. Her number one concern was not to lose face. Right? So whenever we cross boundary, or her interpretation of that would be, hey, how dare you challenge my authority, let me lose face. And then we should lose her shit. Right? Again, totally understandable, totally human. So absolute peace with whatever she did.
Yeah. Same here. I think losing faith was a big. I think it's still a big thing now. You know, who like to be embarrassed in front of their kids or strangers or in a crowd. But I do remember some of the harshest punishment I got because of my mom felt like she was ashamed of or embarrassed of what I did, or you know. I remember there's like this like a snack store opened maybe 2 buildings next to us, and on the first day they actually opened up their store for everyone to come in and sample everything, right? So being like a little smart ass like it did, I grabbed a couple cups and grabbed my sister. It's like, hey, let's go grab some candies and you know, and bring some candy home. It wasn't a lot, you know. How many can the 2 of us grab, right? You know, 4 little paper cup, you know, and I think they even provided a paper cup there. So I think they actually welcome people too. It's like cheap shit, you know. And my mom she was so pissed. She was like, you know, we're not fucking poor, you know. We don't need free food, you know. And that's the probably the harshest punishment I got. And yeah, like you, I was like, what the fuck just happened? I just like snacks.
Well, you definitely trigger part of her shadow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though she said we weren't fucking poor, I'm pretty sure she didn't say fucking poor.
Right, no, she didn't say that.
But probably trigger some of her childhood wound of being poor or scarcity. I mean, I don't know your mom, obviously, but I can only imagine that's probably the reason why she lost her shit.
Yeah. So, but in a way that kind of, you know, taught me, I wouldn't say a lesson, but I kind of that experience kind of got imprinted in me, you know. So I do care about, not about like being poor or not, but I don't like to take advantage of other people. You know, I don't want to take advantage of other people's good offering. You know, I'm more aware of that. You know, and that's a good thing. But the bad thing is sometimes I'm scared of asking for help. Right. So it's the good and bad. It's like two-sided. So the duality of things. So I learned a good lesson, but I also I got inhibited.
Right. You gotta unlearn that lesson sometimes.
Right. So I think I'm unlearning that right now. So.
With the podcast equipment.
Yes. Well, really, that's why I'm doing the podcast. It's not like I am some kind of grandfathering master to people. I have 2 kids. They're freaking young. Yeah, I'm very young in this journey. But and the reason I'm doing this is because I want to learn from other people. Right? The original purpose is just I want to talk to other fathers, right? And I will hate to not want to forget about the lesson they taught me, and not to share this with other fathers in need, right? So I set out to talk to other fathers and people about their experience and learn from their victory or the things they regret that they did, you know. So
different perspectives as well as different practices.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So in a way, I personally got a lot of benefit from talking to different people, you know, about what worked for their childhood and how their victory as a parent, or things they hope they didn't do, you know, or like my father did this for me, that was super awesome, you know. I still remember till this day. I'm like, oh, okay, good. I need to do more of that, you know. So, and sometimes when I talk to people, now I have kids, I suddenly have more understanding of what my parents were doing and thinking. It's weird. Like when you don't have, that's why my parents always say like, you understand when you have kids. Did they ever say that to you when you're younger? It's like, you understand when you get married. You understand when you get kids. You know, they told me that a lot. It's like,
I don't think I ever asked that question.
well, I didn't ask them anything. It would be more like a thing. We're fighting, and they didn't have an answer or respond to what I was saying. And they would say, you'll get it when you have kids. That's why we're doing this. It's like...
Well, actually, one of the things that stood out for me during one of the seminars, they said, hey, everyone who's in your 20s, stand up. 25, stand up. And then all the people in their 20s were stand up. And then super young, fresh out of college, maybe they're still in college. And they say, just look at them. Those were your parents. They raised you. So any kind of complaints you have about what they did or didn't do, just look at that. Those are your parents.
Oh, shit.
So just know that that's whatever they did their best at their 20s.
Right.
So that really left an imprint in me.
Yeah, that's very true. They really were...
I didn't know shit in 20s.
Right.
I'm 41. I'm still learning along the way, right? So I don't think there's ever a time where I'm done, but certainly I know a whole lot more than I was in my 25, 26, 27, 28, 29.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why I think the new generation of kids are more fortunate in a way, because now people live longer and we do get married later, right? I don't think a lot of my friends got married in their early 20s anymore. Probably late 20s or early 30s, or some even like me, late 30, or like you will be maybe in the future 40s. But because of that, hopefully we're calmer, right? We're more patient than when we were 20. Right. And we know more stuff. We have more time to reflect, what happened to us, and what we're doing and how we're going to do our job as a parent. And there is a lot of resource out there about teaching children.
Right.
I don't think all the information there are, will be, say, popular or correct in, say, 30 years. Just like if you go back to read the parenting book 30 years ago, a lot of them you'll be like, what the fuck are they talking about? But I think the parents now have a lot more resource. Even on YouTube, if your child is crying, you go on YouTube, it's like, why are my child crying? And you can find some answer there. And there are ways people teach you how to calm your child down with either like a physical movement or things to say. It's like, oh, here are the four reasons, and you can check each one of the reasons. Like, oh, that's why they're upset, right? Where do you get a resource like that?
Right.
And you probably just beat them into submission, like my parents did.
Right.
It's like, stop crying.
Right.
But it's all good.
Right.
I like where this whole thing is going.
Right. So I was actually speaking to my friend Ross, who is 27, also a new father.
Okay.
Also a new father. So I was asking him, say, what's it like to be a father? He's like, no, it's easy. That's his personality. He's like, oh, it's easy. And I said, tell me more. I mean, as a new father, there are no challenges. It's like, yeah, no, it's okay. He said, so this is what he said, and I thought it was an interesting counterpoint to everything that we just said so far. Any challenges in the world, being a parent, is in our genetics. 250,000 years of evolution. Any permutation of the experiments have been tried. So for him, it's the easiest thing in the world because it's in our genetics that, you know, we were raised by our parents were raised by their parents, go on for hundreds of generations, right? So for him, it's the most natural, the most easy thing that he could do as a human being.
I see.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I like that. I think the good thing about when you feel it's easy, you're more patient, and that's my interpretation. When it's easy, you're more relaxed, you're more chill, and I think being chill and relaxed solve 70% of the problem. If you can just be relaxed and take a moment, and I also think that you know, I like if your friend is in a good place, you know, financially,
he's in a great place,
right? And that all adds up to the experience of enjoying parenthood. You know, when you have the resource, when you marry the right person, it all adds up and make the whole experience smooth. You know, I would say. You know, most of the father that I talk to, I don't know if they'll use the word easy, but it's all very positive. You know, it's all, I enjoy the heck out of it. You know, and that's why 12 Summers.
Right.
You know.
Well, I was listening to your conversation with Stone, and he was saying how he doesn't have any kids yet, but he's worried, right? I'm worried as well. Like, what if I fuck up? So logically, I know that I'm going to do my best. And kids are very robust. It's very difficult to fuck up. It's possible, but it's difficult. But nonetheless, that there's that emotional, deep concern, primal concern of like, hey, here's another human being.
Right.
Don't F up.
Yeah. I think, you know, there are parents who are chill and relaxed and just kind of letting things go, and their kid grew up to be okay, and their parents are worried about everything and their kids got injured. You know, it just, I think it's, in a way, it's out of our hand. You know, like the result is out of our hand. Right? Like I don't think you can anyone can predict and say, hey, look at this person and I can predict the outcome of his kid.
Right.
You know, number one, like having 2 kids now, like I seriously don't know where their personality come from. You know, I can tell, oh, my son has my wife's eye, you know.
Physical traits.
Yeah, physical traits. And my daughter has my fingers, you know. Looks like she can play piano, although I don't play piano, but she has like long fingers. But I don't know where the personality come from. It just, it's like, where does this software come from? You know, it's not from me, it's not from Michelle. They have their own personality.
So already she's 7 months old, has her personality already.
When she was 2 weeks old, she has her personality.
No
already.
kidding.
You can tell already.
Wow.
Yeah, you can already tell.
Wow. Because popular psychology would think that your personality comes from the collection of your experiences.
For example,
I was going to say, so at 2 weeks old, even at the just a little bit of an experience, weeks old, she has already accumulated her experience.
Oh yeah, you can already tell. Like she react to things in a certain way.
Interesting.
And she decided that, not just random, and that thing persists till she's like 1 year old now. That the pattern is still there.
Wow.
Nobody taught her anything. She just born that way.
Wow.
And like one good example, my son, when he was maybe 10 months old. He already holds his own bottle. Glass bottle, heavy, not the plastic ones, like glass, thick glass bottle, because we don't like to use plastics. He can hold it and he can finish the whole 8 ounce of milk, one shot, and he just, no problem. One-handed, too,
In style.
Right. And he, like whatever we put in the bottle, he finishes. My daughter, she never holds her own bottle. Even we put her hand around it, she'll immediately release and slap back. And it's like, no, I'm not holding my own bottle, man. You do it, right?
Feed me.
And she will only drink just enough. She will not drink not even 1 ounce. What's the smaller scale?
Sip.
1 sip more. When she's done, she's done. If you put the bottle back, she'll slap the bottle, slap you. Where does that come from?
Interesting.
Like it just, nobody taught her that. How do you teach a kid to slap your hand when she's full?
It's a primal response.
It's a primal response.
Yeah.
It was downloaded when she was in the womb.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing, but it's the funniest thing to watch. It's like, wait, we have the kid that hold his own bottle, and we just give it to him, and he finishes and falls asleep. And this girl, she's like, no, you hold my bottle, and I won't drink a sip more.
That's funny.
And she wake up every 4 hours.
That's funny.
My son can sleep 10 hours at this when he was 1.
That's funny.
My daughter's 1, and she still wake up 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning, crying because she's hungry, because she wouldn't drink more.
That's funny.
So,
thanks for sharing that. That was funny.
Yeah, it is. So I think the outcome, it's hard to predict the outcome.
Yeah.
Because too many variables.
For sure.
But I think I like that easy attitude because there's so many style of parenting out there. Like for sleeping, when we first have our kid, we learned there are 2 ways of putting your child to sleep, or sleep training, right? One is CIO, cry it out, right? Just let your child cry it out, and they'll learn to put themselves to sleep,
right?
When they're done with their frustration and they'll learn pretty quickly. Another one is NAP, I think nighttime attachment parenting, meaning that your kid sleep with you. Okay, and so for a lot of things, there are many, many different ways. But I like this style. I learned of this style of parenting is what is it? It's called CTFD. Yeah. Stands for calm the fuck down. Calm the fuck down.
Of your kid or
yourself?
Yourself. Okay.
Yeah, just don't worry.
Yeah.
Everything is okay.
Right.
Like, don't worry too much. Just be calm.
Right.
And don't worry about what's right or wrong or what you read.
Yeah, that's definitely Ross's style.
Yeah. And that just might be the best style out there, because when you're calm, your kid pick it up, and they learn that, hey, it's okay to be this way, because the kid, in a way, their spirit is so free that they don't get that they have a limitation, right? So they do things, or they don't realize there are consequences in the world. So when we stopped them, they felt in a way their spirit felt violated, right? So they cry and they get emotional. But if the parent freak out with them, it just adds up to the whole horrible experience. But if the parent is calm, it's like, oh, okay, cool, it's normal, and it's actually better for the kid. So
I really like your parenting style, where you when your kids cry and you will actually help them identify their emotions. I thought that to be really quite brilliant. My parents never taught me anything like that. They taught me how to think. And that was my default way of being. So I didn't know what to do with all my emotions. And as a result of that, I just didn't know how to control my emotions.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I would rage inside. Towards others, resent others, as well as resent myself. It wasn't until decades later where I learned to be okay with it. In my 20s, I would say, actually graduate school, where I met you.
Wow.
The start of my personal development journey. And I feel so much freer now, right? I learned to engage, to have more emotional range and finesse with it. So I think it's excellent that you started kids so young.
How do you develop emotional fitness?
I mean,
for yourself,
right? I mean, there were a lot of different exercises, but simply said, is no different than the way you approached it, right? You had an emotion, then you identify, you label it, like, oh, okay, so this is angry, or this is frustrated, this is slightly annoying, or whatever, right? But there are different exercises because I had so much bottled up already. I had to let all of my past out, such that I can come back to neutral and I can learn what that means with different exercises, like mirror exercise, like look yourself in the mirror and just take yourself through a journey of going back to being angry or frustrated or sad or whatever, right? Again, a journey to really stretch out that emotional range and then be okay with it. And obviously, plant medicine, really elevate that level of emotional awareness, and then choose either to let go or choose to forgive or choose to show gratitude, or whatever it may be. And that allowed me to add more and more colors on my palette of emotions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it not only works for kids, it works for adults too.
Human beings. For
Human
sure.
beings
Yeah.
in general. It's just, like if I'm driving and someone cut me off and I feel like I'm about to lose control, sometimes I have the consciousness to tell myself, okay, you're losing your shit because you're angry. Actually feel a little better for some weird reason.
For sure.
Because I think humans are uncomfortable with the unknown. Like if you don't know what's gonna, like, have you fast before, right?
A couple of days, yeah.
Right. And when I fasted is the feeling that, like, oh my God, this is never gonna end. This hunger, this feeling is never gonna end. That gets me, right? And I'm constantly thinking about food, but I'm not getting food. And imagine that's how you feel, but you don't have the confidence that you get food after your fast. Well, your end, right? The end of the fast, you get some food, right? Imagine that you're just being stuck in that feeling, not knowing or not having the confidence that you get fed. That will really fuck anyone up, right? And I think when people are stuck in emotions, that's what it feels like. It's like, I don't feel like this is gonna ever go away.
I'm stuck.
I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think this will ever end. And that's a horrifying thing. And like the first time I liked a girl and she didn't like me, and that was a horrible feeling, right? And
First taste of rejection.
Rejection, right? And that lasted 8 months. I was stuck in that.
Sure.
Woke up to it, you know, I was walking across the road, not paying attention to the light. And it's like, don't care.
Right.
You know, it's like, I don't care. You know, my world just ended. The girl I liked didn't like me.
Right.
Right. And I was like, this will never end. I think this feeling will stay with me till I'm 60 years old.
Right.
That's how I felt like when I was a teenager. Right. And, but now like, oh, you know,
It's no big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah.
You know, we've done that so many times.
Right.
Right. So I think the emotion fitness comes with time and age too. You have to go through things to be proficient in dealing with emotion. That's how
So I have a different philosophy. So I went on a hike a couple of days ago. Reality bending hikes.
Nice.
So I asked two questions because I facilitated. I asked two questions. I ask, who are you? And what makes life meaningful to all of the participants? And we pair up, we asked over and over again, just the entire hike.
Nice.
So when, after the first 10 minutes, you basically share all your scripts already. So you had to like dig in more to come up with new stuff, right? So one thing that I was surprised of my own answer was when someone asked me after, 3 hours in, what makes life meaningful? And then you had to really come up with something. So the thing that I came up with was experience life in a deeper way makes life meaningful. Then ask the question again, what makes life meaningful? I had to dig further. So this is what I came up with, and I really like it, and that's what I'm taking on now, which is consciousness has 4 components. Image, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and bodily sensations. So if I can conscientiously train myself to expand the range for my visualization, for my thoughts, ability to create new thoughts, ability to experience life newly, feelings, emotional-wise, as well as bodily sensation-wise, then I'll have more finesse to experience this reality on a deeper level. Because for the first, I would say, 20 years of my life, I was walking around very developed in the mind, but not very developed in the feelings, emotion part, bodily sensation part. Now I'm a little bit more skilled, but imagine how much richer life can be if I actually have fuller range, shall we say, and fuller finesse, precision, exactly how I feel at any given moment. I think that would make life very meaningful. So my long answer to the point you were making, I would have loved if my parents helped me explore these different palettes, different colors, in a very finer sense, in all image, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and bodily sensations. They didn't do that. They did their best, totally okay, but I'm going to do that for myself now that I'm in my 40s.
How do you plan to do that for your kids?
This is a thought experiment, right?
But
I think the beginning would be to, as you said, label how to articulate it. So you know how artists have their palette and then different colors, and they can mix all different kinds of shades of greens and blue and different as they become more skillful as an artist, right? So similarly, now you're teaching your kids some basic colors: sad, angry, annoyed, irritated. As they feel more complex issues, you're feeling this and that and these other thing. Now you can identify different facets of the same event. So that's perhaps how we'll go about it. Maybe another way to go about it could be journaling. So as they learn more words, they can describe how they feel in very intricate ways, poetically, rhythm-wise, or analogies or metaphors or similes. I mean, I don't know. This is just ways that I am training myself because I write. I never considered myself to be a writer, but as a discipline, I take it on to write every day. Now I can articulate very complex things in different ways to myself first and foremost, and to other human beings.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. So you're saying mind.
So image,
okay.
thoughts, feelings, emotions,
feelings and emotions,
bodily sensations.
Okay. Yeah. So if I were to take that on, I would bodily sensations will be like a cold shower.
That's one for sure. Yeah.
Right. Or me and my family went to Japan for the hot spring.
Great.
My son dipped into the super hot water.
Sure.
I don't know, his own choosing, of course.
Of course.
He didn't stay long, but he experienced what a really hot bath feels like, and he actually enjoys it.
Yeah.
And it was good for his skin.
Great.
So that's bodily sensation. Image, I'm thinking about like art, nature, animals. He loves animals. Insects, what's the other one?
So image, thoughts, feelings, emotions.
So we're doing that.
Sensation. Yeah.
What else? Thoughts. I mean,
words, articulation, new vocabulary, journaling.
Yeah. So that's a great way to kind of. It helps me. I'm looking at different things to help my kids grow and myself grow.
So one thing that I actually never was too fond of is the bodily sensation part. Because in my mind, like, I don't care about that. I'm more elevated. Right? That's the way I was thinking about. But really, that's a disservice to myself because I'm driving this meat suit. Why just limit myself to 3 gears, not the 4th gear?
Right.
3 senses, not the 4th. The body sensation part. And that's actually a hugely important part. So I interviewed one of the sexologists. Her whole teaching philosophy, her transformational artistry is around pleasure. And she said she actually achieved moments of enlightenment through pleasure. Like, oh wow, that's interesting. Tell me more. She said she would have a whole rituals to self-pleasuring and all these other things through smell, through different modalities. I thought that was really, really fascinating. So I think that's one part perhaps we're not, even though it's primal, it's the root chakra, right? But it's not something that we we actively train ourselves to have more sensory mastery in. So I'll share one thing with you. So I did a Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat.
Yeah. I was thinking about you doing that when I was meditating the other day. It's like, holy shit, this guy did this for 10 days, 15 minutes in. I think I'm done.
Yeah, right. So what was actually interesting was that the whole Vipassana meditation philosophy is to experience bodily sensation. So the first 3 days, they just focus on this area, and I'm pointing at the little area right above your upper lip, between your nose and your upper lip.
That's it.
That area. It's 3 days, right here. Focus your entire attention on that moment, and the whole thing about that 3 days. It was painful. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. But what was interesting was for the first time, I was noticing subtle sensations in my body that I never noticed before. I was essentially enhancing the resolution of my bodily sensation. For people who are really skilled in Vipassana training, they can actually pinpoint all different kind of colors and sensations that, whether it's pinching or tingling or, it's within themselves, not just the surface, it's the skins, but also in between. So I thought that was super fascinating. So my point of sharing that is that, like anything else, like how we are very developed in the thought area, the bodily sensation part could also be very developed as well. The sexologist could actually, just through her thought, achieve climax. I was like, wow, that's really fascinating.
I think I know a few women that can do that. I don't know any men can do that. But I just want to point it out for no good reason. I just like to make a distinguished observation right there.
But I believe everything is learnable for people who are really into the art of bodily sensations. You can probably train yourself to do that, right?
Right. I still would like to point out, I don't know of any man. If you are a man who can do that, please call this number.
Well, you have a podcast now, so this is a public call out for
Please call me. Yeah. I would like to talk to you.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
But if it takes more than 5 minutes, then I'm not interested.
Right.
Because we know quicker way to get there.
You want instant gratification. But don't forget. Don't forget the depth. Right, because we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. So when referring back to the sexologist again, there are different depths of climax a woman can achieve based on what she said.
Yeah.
She said that clitoral climax is like nothing. She said the deeper climax is the not the vaginal, but there's another word for it. Anyway, the deeper one. That's the one that like rocks the world. So anyways, my point of this is a parenting podcast. I get that, but
right.
But this is mastery of the modalities that we all have. That's the point of what we're seeing.
Right. I'm just so caught up in that topics right now. But how about cold shower? You still do cold showers and ice bath?
Once in a while.
Okay.
I want to get back to it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the intention. Actually, I had a friend who developed his own ice bath as a business. It's a beautiful product. So when I'm more subtle, I'm gonna get one of his unit.
How much does it go for?
$7,500.
Wow.
It's an investment.
I know.
I mean, if you do it every day, it comes down to nothing. So.
Right. Well, still.
And it has a lot of health benefits, spiritual challenge, reasons, all of that.
I'm certain.
Yeah.
I'm certain. Yeah. Do you do the Wim Hof way, or you just get into the bath, or?
I just get into the bath.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I recommend you do the Wim Hof breathing the right way.
Yeah.
It's really something. Because we're talking about bodily sensation, right?
Right.
And it really, at some point, I feel like enlightenment during the breathing. If you go and listen to my podcast with Robert Christensen, it's kind of cut short because he had a conference call coming in, and he didn't know it was going for that long. But we did a Wim Hof before the podcast, and we're both fucking high on oxygen, basically. So the first 20 minutes, we're just kind of both wobbly, and we're just kind of processing what just happened.
Right.
Especially for him, because I'd done it a couple of times before, so I knew how it felt like.
Right.
But it was his first time. He said he felt like he was 19 years old again. Yeah. He's like 50 something.
Right.
Right. And he felt like he's in his 19.
Wow.
He's like, I haven't felt like this when I was till I was 19.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Do it. So try it. I mean, try it out.
Yeah, I'm trying the breathology method. So this guy is a...
How did they do it? Briefly, how do they do it? What's the breathology method?
Right. So this guy set a world record for holding his breath for 21 minutes.
Holy shit.
21 minutes.
That's enlightenment, man.
Yeah.
If he doesn't see God in those 21 minutes, I don't know where you meet God.
So it's actually an interesting story. I believe he actually had asthma growing up. So he couldn't even breathe normally. He trained himself to be able to breathe. And not only that, he went above and beyond, become world class in terms of the capacity to do a deep dive.
Holy shit.
He did I believe, he set a world record to swim on the water, North Pole or something like that. Some ridiculous amount of distance, and also the longest holding breath, just sitting still.
I think that's one of the most dangerous sports in the world.
Yeah,
high fatality rate in that sport. Because people just go, you go 1 nanosecond over, you're dead.
Right.
You know?
So he repeatedly say, don't go underwater because you can be normal and then pass out.
Right.
And then you're
done.
You're done. Right.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying. For those deep diver, or they actually hold their breath underwater.
Right.
That sport has, I think, one of the most high fatality rates in any sports, because they're just There's when you're too good, and you don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to describe that, but if you're too good and you don't know how good you are, you're off by 1 nanosecond.
Right.
Bye bye.
Right.
Yeah, that's scary.
Right.
But how does he do it? What's the way of, how does he fill his body with oxygen and be able to hold it? Because it's not about your will, right? There's a method of how you can, there's some part of your will has some part to do with it, but there's also a scientific way to saturate your body with oxygen, right?
Right. So I'm learning it for different reasons. I'm not learning it to hold my breath longest. I'm learning it to basically maintain my stamina during my boxing sessions, as an example. So I was actually looking at it more from the mechanical point of view.
Right.
So the way that he trains his lungs to be stronger, to expand, is by tying, what do you call it, a rubber band around. So you can actually have more resistance coming up. Right, so that's one thing. The second thing that he also taught was essentially get used to the feeling of hypoxia. And then he would use, for example, and then hold as long as possible, and then basically use his abdominal muscles to basically try to circulate the oxygen around your lungs so that you can actually utilize more oxygen, squeeze more oxygen from the capacity that you have. So that's what I'm paying attention to right now, not so much the specific breathing techniques just yet.
I see. Yeah, the Wim Hof is, I believe it's in a way similar. I think all the breathing technique, DMT breathing, the yogis, like even when I'm doing a Kundalini yoga now, I can see a lot of similarity there in Wim Hof, right? And I was like, after I studied Kundalini yoga, I told my friend, I said, I do not believe that Wim Hof himself never came across Kundalini yoga.
Of course not.
It's because it's too similar. There's too many similar things.
Right.
But basically, if you want to break it down for Wim Hof, my understanding is first you do kind of the 5 breaths. You just do like very short. You start with like a long in and long out, but you start to speed it up, right? So you kind of become like a short in and short out, right? And you try to fill your lung every time,
right?
And that way, you fill your body with oxygen. You actually change your body's pH,
right,
within like 30 minutes. Then after that, after the rapid breathing session, you do 2 full in and out. So full in and full out, full in and full out. And when you're out, and you just do retention, right? So that's when your lung is experiencing hypoxia, right? It's in a weird way, it's actually relaxing. It's a deep relaxation when your lung is saying like, hey, I need some oxygen, man, but it's like, no, you don't, because now you just saturated your body with oxygen. So every cells, every organ and every tissue is well taken care of, right? They have enough oxygen to survive. But your body is like, holy shit, man, like we're not getting oxygen here. We need some help. So your body, after maybe, I don't know how long, start releasing all these cytokines and growth hormones that will kind of try to rescue this stress you're going through, right? Now those are good things for you. Then you take, and after retention, you feel like you absolutely need to breathe. You take in a deep breath and fill your lung with oxygen again, and you squeeze. And that's when the magic happens.
Really?
Yeah.
The squeezing part.
The squeezing part.
Interesting. Can you describe it for us? The sensation of it, I mean.
Like you almost have to do it to know it, but it feels alive.
Interesting. So it's stimulating.
Some people feel like enlightenment.
So it's stimulating.
Stimulating, relaxing,
Stimulating
joy
and relaxing
at the same time. Yeah, it's
Interesting.
It's strong. It's a strong sensation, but it feels good. You feel like, oh man, this is awesome, and you see images on your third eye. You know.
Interesting.
That's why some people believe that DMT,
right,
the God molecule, get released in the process if you do many cycles.
Interesting.
And each cycle you do, it get enhanced a little bit more. So I usually do 4 cycles. Some people do 7 or 8, which takes an hour.
So it's like 12 minutes per cycle. Or 7 or 8 minutes.
7 8 minutes per cycle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you do it when you get up? Do you do it before you go to sleep?
You can do both. I sleep well after doing it, and I wake up well after it too.
I see.
Yeah.
Because right now I do the breath holding briefly before I go to bed, and breath holding after I get up. It's
good, but if you do this is like the complete set, right? Because if you're just doing the holding, you're not really, you won't be to last as long. You know that was like a magician, David Blaine, right? And he put himself in like an ice chest and hold his breath, or on the water. And he did it for like 20 minutes or something. But what he did was, I mean, it's not easy. It's fucking hard. But what he did is he breathed in like pure oxygen before. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but I believe it's true because no normal human being can do that. And that's a faster way. I mean, because when we breathe in oxygen, it's
20%.
diluted, right?
Yeah.
20%.
Right.
But if you breathe in like
pure oxygen
and you hold, and you're saturating your whole body with oxygen, so you can hold a lot longer. But still, you still have to fight your instinct to breathe. That's hard for 20 minutes. I salute him. I mean, even though he did that, but it's, you know, like I'll give anyone some pure oxygen and say, hold your breath on the water for 20 minutes for me. Like no one can do that. It's still,
you gotta train for it for sure.
Yeah, he's a badass, you know, for doing that. But when you saturate your body with oxygen, you can actually do the retention a lot longer, and you can train your lung to get used to the uncomfortable feeling a lot longer, and that will benefit you. So,
okay.
Yeah, try it.
I'll try it.
I'll guide you through it if you want to.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, so speaking of becoming better human beings, I started this new practice this year, and it's been tremendous.
Okay.
So for the longest time, especially in the personal development world, you always hear people say self-love is so important. Right? Self-love leads to self-worthiness, leads to better relationship with others, better business, better compassion towards other people, etc. Right? So for the longest time, I always thought, I don't need it. I'm a confident person. I don't need that. But after having gone through the divorce and different plant medicine journeys, and really use that divorce as a way to just dig deeper, like what's the source of that? And I realized that there was a little part of me that was really questioning the self-worthy part of it. And I was doing the plant medicine journey. I was just like suffering because it was on loop. I was looping on how shitty of a person I am over and over again for hours, right? And then I remember there's another process that I learned at some point ago where repeat this mantra. So I want to share it publicly because this is one of those game-changing moments. So the mantra is, even though blank, whatever negative thought you have about yourself or others, right, is coming up, I love and accept myself. And the fact that blank, whatever negative thoughts showing up, because it's a part of me. And then you take a deep breath in, feel it fully, and you let everything go. And whatever comes up next, and you say the same thing again. So another belief about yourself comes up, another self-criticism comes up. So even though self-criticism number 2 comes up, I love and accept myself. And the fact that number 2 criticism comes up because it's a part of me. And rapidly, I was able to program myself to make it okay. Because during those hours of suffering, repeating that, because I was trying to reconcile, like, when is it okay, when is it not okay, I'm a good person, this and that and the other thing, trying to really rationalize that. But this mantra bypassed all of that because it is a part of me, and I love him and accept myself no matter what. So it's a game-changing thing for me, because after that, I was still in the journey. I was looking around to see, how do I feel about all these self-criticism number 1, self-criticism number 2, etc. I'm totally okay from a congruent place. So to me, it was a game-changing practice. So these days, whenever I notice there's ever a tiny moment of self-criticism, I'll do that practice again. So even though criticism number 1 shows up, I love and accept myself. The fact that criticism number 1 shows up because it's a part of me. So
I love that.
Yeah. It's a beautiful practice. So for anyone out there who is experiencing this, because it's part of being human, right? Self-doubt, anxiety, rejection, overwhelm, whatever things that's showing up in your life, this is a beautiful practice.
Can you send that to me? I'll include that in the description of the podcast. So whoever want to practice that, have something to refer to.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's such a simple discipline, and it's more effective than anything that I've experimented, because you know how a lot of people, you would say affirmations to themselves. But I think this one, I think when you say affirmation, just like, oh, I feel abundant, there may be a part of you that don't believe it. It's a logical thought. You're trying to use your cerebral cortex to program your midbrain, your primal brain, right? But this mantra actually make it okay, because it is a facet of you. It's not that this experience, this thought is wrong. It's just, it's a part of you. And nonetheless, you still love and accept yourself for who you are.
Awesome. I like that. I'll try that on.
Yeah.
I need it.
We all do.
We all do.
all do.
That's the truth. We all do. Yeah.
And this is one of those fundamental things that I just wonder why it's not taught in parenting or in school. We're essentially left to our own devices. Mm-hmm. Once the thought is in inception in your head, and then it's up to you to learn whatever techniques you have, whether it be meditation, vipassana, plant medicine, affirmations, or mantras, as a way to make yourself whole again. Techniques like this, I believe, is so important. How do you make yourself whole as you go through the roller coaster of this human journey?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, your parent, even your parents can do it for you. If you have a negative thought about yourself, they can't take it out for you. They can encourage you. They can help you, give you different perspectives, but they can't get it out of you. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
bring yourself back to equilibrium again.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I learned from observing my son, he's turning 4, is guilt and shame is not learned in a way.
So he has that already.
He has that already. It's in the DNA.
Interesting.
Because from very young, when we stop him from doing something, either it's dangerous or, and he feel guilt and shame. He feel embarrassed. You know, it's like there's no audience here. There's no just, you know, and he can, and I believe that. I think it's kind of in our genetics. You know, so. Being able to do something like this.
Yeah, I mean, you can teach him at 3 years old.
Yeah, I don't think he can. I don't know. I don't think he has that level of consciousness yet.
Well, I'm sure at some point you would teach
At
him.
some point, though, yeah. I have this friend, Josh.
Right.
He's a teacher, and I think he's the teacher that who are in charge of watching the kids in detention.
Oh yeah.
Right. So instead of like making them sit through a detention, he actually led them through like a mindfulness meditation.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And I was like, I'm so grateful for people like him in this world.
That's awesome.
You know, they're just really out there to watch out for these kids. You
That's
know, because
awesome.
like there's a reason these kids are not behaving, right? Or they're just kids, right? Especially boys are so different than girls, you know. And because we have these rules and regulation, now they're wrong. They're the outliers of the society, and we put them into a class and label them as, you guys are in detention. But he actually are there to elevate them and teach them new tools to be more aware of who they are and their emotions and their behavior. Awesome. Yeah, I was like, man, this guy is awesome.
Wow.
You know, so
one detention at a time.
yeah. So it's,
I'm being facetious, but you know, I'm also being super impressed as well.
Yeah.
Because it is one detention at a time. Yeah. Right. He has the audience, a private audience. They are captivated. They're captivated. They're kept there physically. So
right.
You know, why not?
There are really a lot of men. They're doing with the work to help young men and young kids. Have you? There's a guy who wrote this book. Something about real men and crying.
No.
How Men Cries or
no.
It's like
good book.
Good book. Yeah. Go read it. He actually owns a martial arts school, and he helped a lot of kids without father. Or
the black guy.
Yeah.
I saw the viral video.
Oh yeah. So I actually read his whole book, and I have a deeper understanding of why he's doing what he does, and why he does it through like martial arts, you know, because it goes back to the sensation part. When you learn martial art, you really learn about your own body and your sensations. When you get slammed on the floor, when your arm get twisted, you learn about the sensation, and you learn about defending yourself, right? Protecting yourself, guarding yourself. And with that tool, he's helping a lot of young kids. I like his style of teaching martial arts too. He does it real, you know, not just like, let's do a style. No, he does it like, he really teaches them how to protect themselves.
Use the entire body,
Yeah.
for sure.
So,
That's good stuff.
yeah. Too bad I forget his name, but he's a good dude.
Seems like it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did we get here? We're talking about 4 ways of raising
Awareness.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the take-home message for me.
Yeah.
Because those are tools, right? Like whenever I interact with my children, I can think about, oh, okay, how can I enhance their human experience today, right?
Oh, good. I'm glad.
And
I mean, it took me 40 years to finally figure out how to say it.
like yesterday, we went and picked out like a rain boots for my son, and I was like wondering, it's like that's not a thing for adults, unless you're going hunting in the woods, you know. But it's a thing for little kids,
Really?
right? Yeah, it's a thing for kids to buy rain boots because,
What?
well, for listeners in California, they might not understand because it doesn't fucking rain there. But
Right.
for everywhere in the world, water does fall out of the sky.
Uh-huh.
And I remember when I was a little kid, I loved wearing my little rain boot and go out and just jump into like a pile of water and make a big splashes and get wet. And at the end of the day, my rain boot will be filled with water come out of my ankle, like ankle level water, and I just dump it out and go out and play it again. And so it's a thing for young kids to play with water. Like even the school we go to in California, in Los Angeles, my son goes to, they're required to get rain boots because on the rare occasion it rains, they still go out. Like if they have a outdoor activity that day, they're set out to do outdoor. It doesn't matter if it's rain or shine, they go out. So they have to have like a rain boot. But it's not a thing for adult. Like who do you know will like put on their rain boot and go out and jump in the water and have fun?
It's been a while.
It's been a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
And I was like, man, that's only like a thing for kids. Like they really know how to enjoy life in the simplest manner. And there's something for me to learn from there. You know, just enjoy simple things. And I think that's why a lot of people enjoy watching kids, because it reminds them like how easy and simple it is to have fun. You don't need expensive toys and equipment, and just have fun with anything you have.
Right.
You know,
Be in the moment.
be in the moment, be present.
Yeah.
So that's why rain boot is such a thing for kids. It's
Yeah, well, I have an excuse to play with water.
huh?
You can jump into the puddles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. So that's that. Anything you would like to add?
What we talked about so far?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me personally, I wish my intention is to be able to share some of these tools to, well, one, my audience, and then two, when I have kids, to pass it down, such that they can learn to master these 4 domains early on.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe part of my thesis in Noble Warrior, in Ultra Dose Quest, is that the more awareness you have internally as well as externally, then you understand reality for what it is even more. And when you understand reality for what it is, not what you made up in your mind, not the stories you tell, you can actually be more effective in the world. So it's an inside out approach. I'm all about effectiveness because I'm a householder. I'm not a monk. I'm not a yogi. I live in this world. So if I can enhance my awareness and be more effective in the world, then I would totally do that. So I want to pass down these tools that I've accumulated over the years to my kids. Hopefully they want to learn it. If they don't, they're going to go through their journey and went through different bumps that way as well. And another thing that I also notice is through different plant medicine journeys is that as human beings, we have a tendency to pass down intergenerationally. Whatever you parent your kids, you learn it from your parents. Whatever you, whatever they learn from their parents. So if you see some negative cycles that you don't like to see it passed down, it's up to you to change your behavior and bring more awareness, bring more consciousness, bring more practice, such that they can come out to be however they are, but not necessarily repeating these unconscious practices that your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents have passed down to them unconsciously. You know, so I did ask my parents a lot of questions about why did you raise us this way, and you know, did grandpa or grandma teach you that way, and so there's some correlation.
You should interview your dad and put it on recording.
Maybe.
So your kids can hear it.
Sure. No, that's a good idea. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, time is limited. Yeah.
Exactly.
Time is limited. Yeah, actually, you know what? I have recorded my dad before. He didn't know it. I just hit record.
Oh,
I started
man.
having conversations. But no, he was telling some really great stories about our family history. And it's one of those things that I didn't appreciate when I was younger. But now that I'm a little bit older, and then he is also older now. He's in his 70s. So God knows how long, how much more time he has. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion.
Good thing you have your equipment with you.
I do that. Yeah, I could do that at all places. We're actually gonna go visit my grandparents' grave day after tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where are you going tomorrow? Are you going to China?
Not tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Jinbaoshan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, here in Taiwan.
Oh, okay, got it.
Right.
Are you staying in Taiwan or are you going to China as well?
I'm going to China on the 24th to visit grandma,
Oh, okay.
who is in her 90s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
Lucky me indeed. Yes, I'm gonna record some stories from her too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
That'll be good.
Yeah, she definitely is an inspiration for me. I mean, I have great parents. My mom is one of my role model to be a generous human being, and my grandma very much the same way. She was a government official, basically take government stipend, government salary, and after she got retired, and she would donate like 80% of her stipend to provide college scholarships to the local kids in China. It's not a lot of money. And she still donated 80% of that.
Wow.
That's freaking generous. So definitely a role model of generosity.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Good human being.
For sure. I have a lot to live up to.
Grandma, whose side? From what?
From mom's side.
Mom's side. Okay, got it.
Side.
Yeah. Yeah. Let her know that you're recording it, man, and it's. She might tell you even better stories.
Yeah, for sure. I think once people know that the camera is on, that the recorder is on, they put a little bit more energy into it.
For sure. I that's why I like to, like at some point, I feel like even though like no one wanna listen to the podcast, it will be okay, because whenever we do a podcast and we have the microphone on, record on, the quality of the conversation is just supreme. Because now we have this consciousness that someone might be listening. Maybe there's 1 million people listening out there right now, or 100, doesn't matter, but it just adds to the quality of the conversation. So I prefer to talk with a microphone nowadays, if I can, you know.
Do you tell them?
Huh?
Do you tell them that the microphone's on?
Oh yeah, of course, of course. I don't. It needs to be consensual.
Consensual. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's a lot of the conversation get personal.
For sure.
You know, so they still have to they have to be okay with it. I did early on, not this podcast, but my first one. I interview someone, and they know the microphone is on, and they still talk about something I think is too personal, and I decided to never release it.
You decided?
I decided because he was talking about you know, like some public figures.
Oh, I see.
That everyone knows. Even though it was nothing negative.
Right.
But I just decided to protect him, and, you know.
Well, but he said it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's my call. But
okay, it's your podcast.
That's my podcast.
Gotcha.
But
all right.
It's not just personal. It's to, yeah. Anyway. So. Yeah. And I let him know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I asked that question not to question your judgment,
right.
but I'm asked that question because I have been guests of other podcasts, and we talk about whatever we talk about, and then the host would tell me like, "Hey, we decided not to publish it," and that's, for me, in full transparency, was very disrespectful. Because I donated my time, knowing that it may or may not help someone, right? But to have that taken away, it's as if I wasted an hour of my time, or however long it was.
That's a good point.
And I'm okay. I understand the choice of the podcast hosts. At the same time, didn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
You know. So I do my best as a podcast host to always publish. And if there's anything that's a little bit questionable, whether it's protecting them or, you know, just being appropriate about something, then I'll cut it out. But I will still publish.
I see.
Unless they tell me specifically that, hey, you know, I changed my mind, please don't publish it. I said too much, whatever. And I'll respect their choice. But I'll leave it up to them rather than arbitrarily do it, just out of respect for their time. That's the way I look at it. Again, not to question anything that you did.
I get it.
It was more of a just a
Yeah.
thought process that I had to, because I've been on both sides.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think that's a very valid point. You know? Again, and part of it I'm doing it is because I don't want that podcast to turn in gossipy.
Sure.
You know, because it felt a little bit like it. You know?
Yeah, got it.
So
you were talking about someone else who's not present.
right.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's just 1 in a 90 episodes.
Of course.
So,
is there anything else that you want to talk about in this parenting podcast? I know we kind of divert quite a lot.
oh, we always divert the shit out of it, man. That's being a parent. It's not just about parents, right? It's about who you are when you're not with your kids.
Right.
Right? It's like a martial artist cannot just be a martial artist when he's fighting in the ring. He's a martial artist when he's eating, when he's sleeping, when he's practicing, when he's walking. right? He's being that. You can't be eating like pizza every day and be a top-notch fighter. There's no way. But can you say, well, when I'm eating, I'm not a fighter. I'm not a martial artist. Well, you are. I think same thing for parents. You can't just be with your kid. Okay, now I'm a parent, and I'm gonna turn it on. I don't think it works that way. Like I'm a parent when I'm not with my kids. I'm a parent when I'm eating, when I'm exercising, and that make me a better person when I'm with my kids. So that's why we divert. That's why we talk about everything else. I hope that makes sense for the audiences, but
I hope so too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm complete, man. I'm pretty good.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
Good place.
Thank you for your time, and
You're welcome.
let's do more in the future.
For sure. Cool.